everyone, welcome back. We are up to season 2, episode 10, I believe, Roxy. And today we have 2 very special guests. They were very difficult to get on the show. There's so much going on, very busy people. We have our former colleagues and presently still very good friends, Bonolo and Sarah. So welcome to the Happy Teacher Pod.
Thank you.
Thanks.
We used to be in the department together and we were in a growing school. So basically the school, well, when me, Bonolo and Jenny joined, did we all join the same year? Yeah, we joined the same year. When we joined, the school had only been open for 1 year and it only had year 7, and then it was getting year 8 in the year that we started. So it was a very unique experience. And actually Sarah was one of the OG members of staff from that school, and she was there right from the very beginning. So she was the one that built our whole department. She's the foundation of the department, weren't you, Sarah?
Oh, I mean, it was so amazing when you guys started, because that first year I was the only humanities teacher teaching geography, history and RE, and planning all the lessons. Had the head teacher teaching, had a drama teacher, PE teacher. I mean, they were brilliant, but just that next year being able to interview you guys and be able to like have a little say in who was going to work in the department was like a dream. So actually
amazing. Talking of the interview, that leads on nicely to our break-time banter. So I'm going to do the break-time banter today because this one is about me and Bonolo. So when Sarah was obviously interviewing us, we ended up getting the interview. Was it? I feel like it was like the end of Feb time, something like that.
It was quite early. Yeah,
it was quite early on in the recruitment process for teachers. And so when we went to the interview, it was both me and Bonolo, and we were the only ones there. And the advert had only said that there was 1 job. Like, it didn't say that there were 2 jobs in the advert. It just said teacher of humanities. And so it got there and it was just me and him. Anyway, I am an extremely chatty person and I'm there trying to just have a conversation with Bonolo. And we are clearly 2 very different people when it comes to being an interview. So I'm taking the view of, you know what, if I get it, I get it. If he gets it, he gets it. Like, it's fine. Like, let's just have a chat and, you know, just make conversation on the day.
That wasn't me at all.
That was not Bonolo. He literally, I think he just kept giving me 1-word answers every time I asked something. So I'd be like, oh, like, where are you currently working? And he'd be like, wherever it was. I don't want to say it because I don't want people to know exactly where you worked beforehand. But they were like, he was like saying, okay, how did you get to work? And he'd like say this like 1-word answer. And I'm like, okay, cool. And I was thinking, God, what is wrong with this guy? Like, why is he just like literally shutting me down every time I'm trying to have a conversation with him? And it was like a really nerve-wracking process because for some reason, that school, I mean, Sarah, you'll remember this, like the way they used to interview people was almost like the X Factor. So it was like, we were sitting on one side of the room, like one person would be on the one side of the room and then it would be 3 people, but they were so far away and it was almost like this power dynamic of like an interview. And so it was such a nerve-wracking interview. I just wanted to like carry the conversation on. Bonolo was absolutely having none of it. Anyway, he said bye to me, like, but it was a very like, you know, see ya, kind of like, I'm getting the job, like, bye, off we go.
And do you know what was crazy? I was so nervous the whole time. It wasn't from a rudeness point of view. I was actually quite nervous and I just wanted to concentrate on the questions, on the lesson. And I had this other member of staff just talking to me constantly. And I was like, wow, is she not even bothered about getting the job? Does she not want this job? I'm trying to concentrate on actually getting my wording right for the interview. I was thinking about what question I could ask. And you were asking me such silly questions. But for me, it was silly because...
Thank you,
No, because in my head, I was thinking, let's keep the eye on the prize. And you were asking really kind of... They were lovely questions, but they were just like sidetracking me. And I just thought, hold on a minute, is she trying to get the job by putting me off?
No,
I'm not that kind of person.
And I was like, wow, I'm asking questions because I thought, let me, you know, ask her questions back. So I was like, you know, and it was very short questions like, oh, so how long you been teaching? Really straight to the point, just so that you could just quickly tell me. But you'd go off on one, asking me more questions. Oh, I've been teaching it. I talk here, I talk there. And I was like, oh my God, I need to actually practice and prepare. And you're putting me off. And I just thought you were so confident. And I just thought, like, I need to really.
I'll take that as a compliment.
Yeah, but I just thought I need to stop talking to you because I need to really get my head in the game. And you're putting me off. And it's a tactic. And
little
so
did you know that a couple of weeks that I think it was about, so obviously we both got the job. I think it was the next day Rachel called us and we both got the job, and we didn't know that each other had got the job. We didn't know that they'd given 2 jobs out. So Bonolo's probably in the corner going, yes, I got the job. And then I was like sitting there going, oh, I'm never going to see this guy again. But yeah, and then a couple of weeks later, I think it was maybe about 4 or 5 weeks later, Sarah actually messaged us as like a team, and I think it was at that point I realized, I was like, oh, we both got the job. We both got a job, because obviously our emails were in the same. It's like hi team, like gonna see you on this like day or whenever we were gonna go into school. Yeah, and then we obviously saw each other when we went into school, and I was like, well, little did we know that we would end up really, really good friends, and that you wouldn't be annoyed at my questions.
Well, I think there was only one job that I knew that one person would get it, but you two were so good and you were both like so different. It was really hard to choose between you because you both came with like such a unique set of skills that we just all thought we'd have to employ them both. So no-brainer.
Because I was going to ask that. I was going to say, did you know there was a secret second job, or was it just that they were both so impressive?
They were just so good. And to be honest, we could have done with another person, but at that time it might have been the head carrying on teaching or one of the other teachers that was under timetable. But it just meant that we didn't have to do that really. So yeah, worked out brilliantly.
And Jenny, I feel like, were you, because you were coming in as a head of year, weren't you?
Jenny's was a bit later, her interview, I think.
Yeah, it was similar sort of time, wasn't it? But like a little bit later. But yeah, I was coming in as a head of year, but also knowing that there was already someone internal going for that same job, and thinking there was only one role available, and I'd had a word with someone else who knew the internal person. So I thought it was her against me, and then both of us became heads of year.
I remember meeting you, Jenny, before even the interview. I think there was a recruitment open day at the school, and I remember you coming up to me and just asking lots of questions about the department and about the school.
Oh, I bet she was. My God, I
had my clipboard. Question number 1.
Yeah.
But didn't you have to do role play and stuff for your interview? I wasn't in your interview.
Oh my God, yeah. I had to do role play with the chair of the Board of Governors, pretending to be this like concerned parent about his 12-year-old that had gone off to buy milk, and what was I going to do about it? I was like, this is so weird.
I had to do a role play, but not with the chair of governors. Like when I was doing my interview for head of year, I definitely had to do a role play. I think with like one of the assistant heads or deputy heads about like, it was again about a child, obviously like some kind of safeguarding issue or something like that. But anyway, we don't need to talk about head of year stuff because obviously it would be here for days. So then like obviously that was our department, wasn't it? Set up the 4 of us, and like Sarah said before, she was completely by herself, well, in like a kind of department full of other people that were just, you know,
not necessarily specialists or like the head teacher was a humanities specialist, wasn't she? But she was also busy being the head teacher as well. And
so, and then
a strange time. Like you think those years, like the first year and the second year, when you only have 2 year groups, my friend used to say to me, why are you working this many hours? Like you've only got year 7 and 8. And I'd be like, I don't know.
Yeah.
But it's such an intense thing, isn't it? When you start a new starter.
Funnily enough, obviously Bonolo then took over as head of faculty when Sarah left, and so actually we've got both like the head faculties here of the Humanities Department, which is lovely. So actually this is a nice one onto the first question, which is, what do you think a good department looks like? So Sarah, what was your vision? I remember you had a vision for us.
Okay, that's one of my things that I think a good department looks like. I think having a shared vision is something that I think is really important. It's got to be a shared vision, and everyone's got to buy into that. But I think if you've got that, then when all the other challenges come along, which they're, you know, undoubtedly going to be loads of challenges, you can just kind of come back to that vision and kind of see the woods through the trees. Is that the saying? See the woods through
see the woods through the trees. Yeah.
See the woods from the trees, and then you're just able to kind of carry on, I suppose, if everyone's got and that vision has to have the kids at the heart of it. Really thinking about them, something which is ambitious but achievable, and everyone's going on the same path. So that is definitely something that I think you see in good teams. But I also just think respect is really important. And you don't have to be, we were really lucky because I think we all like each other and we're still friends now, which, is a testament to that. And I don't think you have to necessarily want to go and socialise with your team, but there has to be that respect that you have for each other. And so that you've got those communication lines open, you can have a dialogue between each other, you can work together, you can learn from each other, you can learn with each other. And I guess kind of ultimately, I've been lucky and I've worked in lots of teams and I think they've all been good teams. And I would say that in all of them, even if they're not my best friends, we've had that respect and that feeling of belonging where everyone, doesn't matter, who they are, what their skill sets are, what their beliefs are, but everyone is valued for what they bring to the table. And that could be, really different things from each other, but they're valued and the leader knows their values and can work with them.
That links in really nicely, doesn't it, Roxy, to the episode with the head teacher with Rebecca Lee, because she was talking all about good schools being like permaculture, so not trying to create monocrops of everyone's all the same, like this is my identical good teacher that goes in my department. It was like everyone will bring something to the table and a good leader will figure out what all those things are and trust people and let everyone flourish, and therefore you'll have a strong team because of it.
She said almost like the leader becomes redundant if the team is working extremely well, because everyone is thriving in their environment. That she said actually the dream is that the head teacher doesn't even need to really exist at all, because that team is just seamlessly kind of working together. That's the dream. I don't know, maybe I romanticize it now, but we had such a good department. Maybe it was because of all of our different personalities, adding into the department, and kind of we did have obviously friendships outside of the department, but that grew over time. That wasn't something that was there instantly. And so you're right, that initial respect within the department is really, really helpful, and does kind of.
I was just going to say what Sarah said at the beginning. I think it links into the next question to ask Bonolo about why do you think our department was so good? I think what you said about the vision there is really important, because I do vaguely remember you talking about your vision at the beginning. And if I'm honest, I remember thinking, oh, it's a bit cheesy. Oh. But what I will say is when I've worked in departments without a vision, it's made me realise just how important it is, because I don't think actually until just this moment now actually I've realised how important your vision was. So well done. It only took me about 10-12 years to realise, but I've working in departments without a very clear vision, I think leads to a lot of the problems.
I was just going to say, I think for me as well, I remember actually sitting with you three outside when we went to that training thing.
Yeah, I remember that.
Sitting under the trees, having our first meeting outside. And I remember the very first thing I did, I think, was talk about the vision. And I think coming from a faculty like ours, or a humanities faculty, I'm geography, Bonolo, Roxy, your RE, Jenny, your history, we're all coming from our own kind of angles. And I felt even more so that we need to have a vision where we're all tied together, because we're going to be working so closely together, and I know some people don't like teaching out of their specialism, but, coming to a new start school, you're going to teach out of your specialism. Actually, I think that was I know there's pros and cons to that, but I think one of the wonderful things about it was that we all worked really well together, and it didn't matter that I was a geographer and you were a historian. We all wanted the best and did the best in all of our subjects, and we never kind of showed the children that, geography is better than history or whatever. And part
because that actually vision, that was part of your vision, and that definitely disseminated down like through the department and through us as teachers to the students. So I remember you saying that. Yeah, I actually remember that exact conversation, and I remember you saying to us, listen, like, my vision is that we're all teachers of humanities, like we're not you know, individual kind of like RE teacher, history teacher, geography teacher. And yeah, and actually very weirdly, even though now I pretty much teach only in my specialism, which is RE, I still absolutely love the idea of just like actually teaching out of my specialism as well. And I really enjoy it. And I got a history cover. No, I got a geography cover a couple of weeks ago, and it was all about urbanization. And I was like, yes, bring me the urbanization in India. I will absolutely smash this cover lesson for you. It was it was great.
I was gonna say, Roxy, it's quite interesting that you say that now, because I remember at the time, me and you kind of looked at each other and were like, what is this?
Yeah.
What do you mean we have to share resources? What do you mean we have to?
Oh, the sharing.
Yeah, we have to be teachers of all three subjects equally, because I just thought that couldn't really be done. But it was quite interesting because we quickly adopted your vision. And yeah, over time it got easier and easier because we all bought into it from the very first moment. And I think if you had tried to introduce that later on, there would definitely have been a lot of pushback. But the fact that you did it straight away when we all just met, that was really important, because we knew that that was a foundational principle to the department. So yeah, definitely that was one thing that's.
Everyone loves a bit of cheese, don't they? Well, Jenny doesn't.
No, she does love it. That's what she just said. She loves it, but she
takes me a while to admit.
it.
It just takes me a while to realise, yeah. So Bonolo, could we ask you a little bit more, because, you know, Sarah, we think might be quite modest about this, but what do you think it was that made our department so good? Because we talk about it a lot on our podcast as kind of one of our favourite ever departments.
So I think it's quite interesting because when people look at us, they might think, oh my goodness, how are you guys, number one, even friends? Because we are very different. No, we are very,
what's he gonna say?
We're very individual. We're very like headstrong. We're very kind of confident. We all very different in our own ways. But I think what we've always had from the beginning is this kind of idea that you can be individual and you can teach in a certain way. You can approach teaching in a certain way, and that's always been respected. And it goes back to what Sarah said. But I think what was really good about our department is that we were supported to like lean into our strengths. A lot of the time, people are looking for consistency. They almost sometimes reduce your strengths. So say you're, I don't know, you're a teacher that really likes certain activities. And because the department focus, they'll say, no, we're not going to do that type of activity. We're all going to do one type of activity. And that head of department might know full well that you are very good at doing one specific activity, but their policy does not allow you to shine when it comes to showing off range of activities that you can do. But I don't think we ever had that, because we were able, I mean, it was difficult because number one, we had to teach similar things in a similar way, but we were still allowed to be a bit flexible in our approach to teaching. And I think that's what was quite good about our department. We were
we were definitely encouraged. You are right. We were definitely encouraged to try and make our lessons creative and in our own creative capacity, which really was something I enjoyed so much, and I miss so much, because, you know, like when we used to sit down and think about how to plan a new RE scheme of work, and we used to literally be like coming up with these, like, I mean, remember when we done the women in religion one, and we were just coming up with so many different like ideas, and we were like, yeah, let's do this and let's do that, and let's do experiential RE, and let's like do Shabbat in real life, and let's do whatever. And we were never completely shut down. We were never told by Sarah, like, absolutely not, you need to do a this for a starter and a this for a main and a whatever else. So I totally agree,
because we had very different teaching styles. We were very different people. But you know, when we're doing the shared resources, I'd recognize that actually, and this is going to be something that is a common theme between me and Jenny, role plays was just not my, it just wasn't my thing. I hated role plays. Okay, so for me, I knew anytime that kind of thing came up or any group work, for me, that was just really difficult because it just wasn't my style. But I had to recognize that for other people, that was their strength. And I think allowing that kind of flexibility in our curriculum was fantastic because actually the students had a range of different activities. And eventually over time, we became even better practitioners because we were different and we brought so many different ideas to the table and we were allowed to be individuals. And that actually stretched us in different ways. So I think actually when you have a department that is very similar or too consistent, that can actually be quite detrimental to the learning experience of students, but also for those kind of CPD opportunities for teachers to get outside of their comfort zone when it comes to teaching. And I think that's why, I don't know, we really learned from each other in that sense because there was no one person that had it cracked. We were all
as you're saying that, it made me think this isn't like something specific like a role play, but I remember I think it was one of Sarah's lessons, but when we were trying to teach them about the different bits of the earth, so like the inner core and the outer core and the mantle and the crust, and you used like a certain type of M&M that had all the different layers, and just things that I wouldn't have known there was an M&M that existed that had that many layers. So I would never have thought to do that lesson.
Do you know what I thought you were going to say about the Layers of the Earth song, which I can literally repeat in my head right now because I played that many a time.
I still play that one. But I think what was really good as well is that we had that planning time. Do you remember when we were all off the timetable at the same time? And it wasn't, we never, we didn't use it for something else to do our marking. We were always like, we stuck to it. We went into that classroom, we had our hour planning or going through the lessons for the following week, which just made us feel more confident about what's coming up. And nothing felt last minute really, did it? It was all organised. Yeah. And that's everybody.
And do you know what? Now I'm at a split site school now, and I do not see my department pretty much. And it is, it's fine because that's just how it works in this school. But you're right. This planning, this joint planning time just made it run so smoothly because we were able to just talk to each other in that dedicated hour every single week, which made such a massive difference. But I've got to agree, Bonolo's point is probably for me why our department was so successful, because we were able to lean into our own teaching styles, but with the support of each other at the exact same time, which made it, and that's what made it so special for me, because like obviously each and every one of you has your own kind of way of teaching, and I definitely see myself doing things that all three of you have done in your lessons in the past. Like sometimes I do something now and I'm like, oh, that's so Bonolo. Like I've done a leaflet recently and I was like, oh my god, right? I was like, God, that is so Bonolo. Like, but actually it was an awesome lesson, and the kids were like, oh miss, can we do a leaflet again? And I was like, yeah, of course we can. Like that's like,
and make it out like I just do leaflets.
I think I think there's a lot of emotional intelligence between the four of us as well. And I think, you talk about being supportive. I think we were quite good at looking out for each other and seeing when someone needed like a little bit of an extra boost or, a chat or just something funny or whatever it was. And, that wasn't necessarily just coming from one person. That was everyone doing that to each other. So I think emotional intelligence is like key really in trying to keep a happy team under really stressful, challenging circumstances, which all schools are.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, we had like a bit of a unique experience in the fact of our school also didn't have like a main staff room. So we were literally always with each other when we were on a free and we weren't teaching. And that environment also gave us that time to kind of speak and really get into what we were doing in different lessons and share ideas and just, and like you said, have a laugh if you needed, like have a chat, have a cup of tea, like have a cry. God, I'm sure there were lots of crying moments as well. Like, it wasn't all roses and skipping down the road and whatever else. Although we did take them out on a good few little trips, which was absolutely lovely as well. So we obviously all moved on. Jenny first. and then Sarah second, and then me and Bonolo last, and we left at the same time, which was very serendipitous of us, Bonolo. And so my kind of final question was, what did we do that you have taken into your new schools that you feel like, oh, actually, I'm kind of doing something like I done with the leaflets the other day, like taking different little bits of your teaching styles. What out of our department and our lovely little dynamic that we have, what did you take and kind of use now?
I think our whole kind of sharing mentality is something definitely that I've taken through into all the teams that I've worked in since. And that's just like, I mean, I don't know why I didn't do it really that much before in a previous job before I worked with you guys. Lots of people doing their own stuff and not really sharing at all, but it just makes things so much easier and you learn so much from each other. So definitely that. Definitely some of the teaching. I mean, I still remember all 3 of your lessons. I remember your interview lessons. I remember lessons that I observed with, and I got so much from all of your lessons in loads of different ways. But I also think just you as people too. I feel like I've taken a little bit of you with me. So, you know, when I think of Jenny and, you know, you've got really strong boundaries, and I love that about you, and you know what you want and your boundaries are there. And I really try sometimes if I think, no, I'm not putting my boundaries up.
What would Jenny do?
What would Jenny do? And, you know, that's something I've tried to take forward. I mean, Roxy, I think you're amazing in the classroom too, and your kind of excitement and passion always came through whenever I saw you. And again, that's something that I've tried to take through. And Bonolo, I think with you, you're such a deep thinker, and your integrity as well is something which I often think about. So all 3 of you, I think I've taken things from you and, you know, tried to be a better practitioner, a better teacher in lots of different ways. And not just the kind of bread and butter of the teaching, but actually you as professionals too.
That's lovely.
Oh, thanks, Sarah.
Yeah, it's just another instance of why she was such a good manager. Like, she's just so good for confidence and
what have you taken into your
well, firstly, I mean, for me, the one thing I was going to mention really quickly was that when Sarah left the department, I remember her saying to me, protect the team. You've got to like make sure you protect the team. And that was like something that I learned to do quite quickly, because obviously as a middle leader, you want to obviously please the people above you, but you have to always protect your team. And sometimes you can be in a position where you're facing a conflict from both sides. And I think I really learned to try and manage that and balance that. That was one thing that I think Sarah definitely kind of like helped me to understand when she imparted that knowledge on me. Another thing, like widely from the rest of the group here, is CPD. I think I never thought I was interested in CPD until I actually got to teach with all of you guys. And I remember going to things like teach meets for the very first time. Like invested in pedagogy, like thinking about my practice. Like obviously I did that when I was learning to teach, but I never really thought about it as I was teaching until I took it. And really thinking about what worked well for the students, what could I do to improve my own practice, and just taking on board feedback from everyone and being okay with that feedback. I think that's what really developed that skill.
And you did those teach meets, you did those teaching and learning breakfasts, didn't you?
Yeah, which is something that I really want to carry on doing. And it's something that, unfortunately, this role that I'm in at the moment, I haven't done. But it's just something that I'm always constantly aware of. And it's this idea that we have to keep learning all the time. We've got to empower each other, lift each other up. And things are always changing in education, whether that's technology or new kind of even government initiatives that are coming through. Like, you've got to always be up to date. And that's something that I really...
That's another thing that I've taken through from you, actually. Like, you had all of those... before really people really spoke about the kind of science of teaching and stuff, but you were already there. You had the websites and the blogs and things like that you were sharing around, and different ideas. And it was kind of really, like you said, apart from PGCE and stuff, it was kind of the first time I really thought about teaching and learning in that kind of way.
Yeah.
do you know what? I love those teaching and learning breakfasts, because you
Yeah.
used to find some really niche kind of things to talk about, and you kind of used to mix it up. You used to sometimes bring something about pedagogy or something about government change, like you just said, or something about behavior, and it would just like be a forum for professionals to get together and actually discuss. And we don't often get those kind of moments, do you? Because everything is like do like, oh my god, rush, like got to teach, got to do this, got to do that, you got to mark, got to like marks on the system and all of this kind of stuff. And all that kind of admin stuff can get really bog you down. I'm not saying we didn't have admin stuff, but it's like you found those pockets. I mean, that was in the morning for like 15 minutes, so it wasn't like we were doing anything like really laborious, you know, that we were gonna have to like.
But it was nice because it was like organic, like, so you
Yeah.
speak to people and then we'd all have a discussion, break off, and then do something different. And then I remember it even led to us kind of changing some of the things in the school, like kind of. I remember one thing that we made was working with English department placemats, and that then
I
it then
still use
developed.
that.
Yeah, it developed the connective map that we made. It developed into something that we put in each planner the year after. So it was actually like a really good process, but that was all down to the people that were there. And most of the time it was our department that were like carrying that kind of way of, you know, we were all there pretty much every single week doing that. And I love that because we were just passionate about that. And that's something that I definitely want to go back to and push. Because I think sometimes it's done in schools, but it's definitely top down. Like we've got an agenda, we've got to talk to you about this. But it was really like from the grassroots, and it was bottom up. We're like, we've got these problems in the lesson. What can we think about? And then we'd come up with pedagogy. Like we'd look into it. We'd look into current pedagogy, different things that schools are doing, and then bring it to the team. And that was quite nice. That was pretty good.
No, that was really good. I love that it was so organic. You're right. It wasn't, you know, top down. It wasn't like we were being told to do something. You were doing it off your own back, and we all kind of wanted to come along and support you, but also we were interested in it. I mean, speaking for myself.
I think it also shows as well, though, doesn't it? I know we're focusing on the department, but that obviously we had a senior leadership team that were kind of open to hearing from the bottom up. So like the fact that it did get incorporated into the planner. So, you know, you could take these ideas to another school, but if you don't kind of have the senior leaders on board with kind of listening to teachers, middle leaders about changes, then you could kind of meet a bit of a block, couldn't you?
We were really lucky with the SLT, I think. Really, really lucky.
Yeah,
and then
definitely. Sorry, go on.
I was going to just adding another thing, like just to add in. I was going to talk about something slightly differently, which was the fact that I was working with mainly female staff. I think that was something that I, again, was not used to in the department, but it was actually something that it just opened my mind completely, because we're such a small team, and we developed with no other members that were male until I think maybe about 5-6 years in. So I was quite used to it. I was really used to it until the point when another male member came in. I was like, oh my goodness, what on earth? Because I was so used to like the dynamics. But it was the first time I'd ever been in a school with a head teacher that was a female, and mostly SLT that were female, and the department being mostly female. And I think I learned a lot about being a professional in this industry, because it is majority female, but also being an advocate for female empowerment as well, like trying to push others forward. But it just opened my mind to a lot more things. So for me personally, on that level, like that's something that I've carried through, and it's something that I'm constantly thinking about all the time. Like when I go to a interview or when I'm thinking about moving jobs, I'm always thinking, okay, what are the dynamics here? What opportunities does it provide for women? What's the flexibility like at work? Even though that doesn't apply to me, it's something that is actually very important, because it was
really inspiring to work for a majority kind of female SLT and a majority female department, because you're right, actually, you know, before that I was in a male heavy department as well, as I didn't even think about it like that, but I was literally the only female. So like you were the only male, I was the only female in my old department. And then, yeah, pretty much all of SLT were also male as well, which you do find that tends to be the kind of balance. So yeah, it definitely was. Yeah, never thought of that. Yeah, that's very true.
It was a really special time though, wasn't it? I think back, I was only there for 5 years, but it feels like so much longer because so much happened within those 5 years. Whereas I've stayed in other jobs for 10 years and it hasn't felt
yeah.
I was only there for 2 years and 2 terms.
It feels like you were there for way longer than that.
Yeah, it really does.
Yeah, but I feel like all of you made it was such a short period of my whole teaching career, but it had such a big impact on me, and all of you did, and I think about it quite a lot.
Yeah, no, when we were starting the podcast, me and Jenny were like, oh my God, we haven't worked with each other for like over 10 years, but it felt like we'd worked with each other recently because of the way that our kind of dynamic was when we were with each other. It was just so lovely. And, you know, I'm sure I speak on behalf of everyone here, but whenever we meet up, like, it's like no time has passed at all. And it's like we're back in department mode with each other. And it's just like the best, man. It is the best. And I absolutely loved my time with you guys. Unfortunately for me and Bonolo, it did go a little bit downhill towards the end there, but
listen, we survived it. We did it.
We survived. We weren't thriving towards the end, but we were surviving.
It was, you know, like that's the thing. Like once you set those foundations in place, when you are faced with challenges, it actually makes it a lot more bearable when you've got people there to support you. So it's worth putting in that extra time and effort with your colleagues, because you know, you just don't know how it's going to pan out. Like, as you've seen at the beginning, I just thought, I don't want to know this woman. And then all of a sudden, like, we get a few years in and like we got to learn quite a lot for support. So it's really important.
And also a lesson to take away, guys, is that teaching is so incestuous that you will know somebody at whatever school you go to, and someone will know someone, and it's like, you know, the school that you go to an interview for, someone will know somebody that you know. And like, it's often like, I'll call one of these guys up and be like, oh, so, you know, do you know anyone that works at this school or whatever? And they'll be like, yeah, and then they'll contact them. So it's something, you're right, be nice to everybody, because you just never know. You never know who's gonna pop back up again in your teaching life. But anyway, I think that leads nicely into our get in the bin. And actually this time we asked Sarah and Bonolo both to put a get in the bin. So
well, that's not true. We asked one of them to decide and they couldn't. And then they said they wanted to put our break-time banter in the bin. So then, to try and appease them both, we gave them both a chance to do get in the bin. So
just do funny stories, or they weren't appropriate. So actually, this kind of leads on to all of the things that we were talking about, really, about what makes a good department. And my get in the bin is micromanagement. There's lots of things that I could put in the bin, but micromanagement for me is one of the things. And I think it's a really interesting one, because I think a lot of the times micromanagement is done for a good reason. Or I think in my experience has been done when someone's been like super, super stressed. But I think ultimately, if you're really micromanaging someone, that leads them to lose confidence. And then ultimately, it just kind of breeds a lack of trust.
Wilf is that Wilf? Wilf's like, yes, I agree. Micromanagement needs to get in the bin.
Wilf is the cat, for anyone that's wondering, thinking it's just like Sarah's man or something.
No, it's the cat.
Meowing in the background.
But if I shut him out, it would just meow at the door.
No, that's fine. I like the fact that he agreed with you on the micromanagement point.
Yeah, and I just think it breeds that kind of lack of trust as well, which I think can just be really damaging for a team and really stifling. I think you mentioned, Jenny, about people, you know, having their skills and being able to, you know, work with each other and work on their skills, but, you know, micromanaging, no.
And Bonolo, you'll get in the bin?
Mine is INSET days. I just think after all these years and so many INSETs that schools have done, it's the one area that I don't think any schools got right. And it's just a shame because it goes back to what we talked about in terms of like CPD, in terms of making the most of every opportunity as a department to really like push forward the curriculum. Every time there's a CPD on INSET Day, it's just so poor. It's poorly planned. It's too much being talked at. And I just don't understand how it's at this level. And every time, it doesn't matter what school I'm in, there are always wasted opportunities. And I just feel like that's something that is just such a shame about education, that we have so many CPD days and a lot of the time it's not actually professional development. I feel like it's a lot of, this is how you must be, or let's do an icebreaker, which I hate, or role play, or things that just do not help.
This is how Bonolo and I bonded. I was like, oh God, me too. I hate
icebreakers. And when you see members of staff falling asleep, doodling, that's enough to tell you it's enough.
Oh, I love an icebreaker.
You're to blame.
I like an icebreaker.
Do you know, like they're like 2 lies and a truth and stuff like that?
Well, I did that. Didn't I do that at one of our first meetings or our second meetings or something?
Oh, I can't remember Bonolo's one, but I wish I did.
It probably was 2 seconds long. Like, introduce yourselves.
It is different. My current school actually does pretty good CPD. Sorry to
but as an INSET day, because I feel like I'm exactly the same with Bonolo, and this sounds really weird and like I have the most boring conversations with my 7-year-old, but I was actually just today talking to my 7-year-old about how I've never been to good INSET. He must be like, what are you talking about? But because I think you can have good CPD throughout the year, but I feel like that kind of day or 2 days at the start of September just always seems, and I know they have to do some things, like they have to do the child protection, but that is, 45 minutes of the 2 days or the 1 day. But actually, how amazing would it be if it's like you've got this time as a department, use it as you all see fit to co-plan together. And I've never seen that at the beginning of the year.
Or they could give us guidance and say, this is exactly what we want you to do in that 45 minutes or an hour as a team. And I want you to be looking at these specific things, and then we can work on something and come up with a finished product by the end of the day or something like that. But we end up being talked at for the whole day, and then they say, in your own time, go and do the safeguarding. And I'm like, oh my goodness. And then you haven't put anything up. You've done nothing. It's just the worst. Stressed.
You don't get any department time at the beginning?
Yeah, you do, but they're just doing the same thing.
We don't.
We do. We get quite a lot. So
that's good.
I think maybe it's rare, but we do get department time. We get a bit of training, then we go into our teams and work on it. Or it has been pretty good.
That's good. And I mean, to me, I was going to say, ideally, I would love like a guest speaker to come in, then you break off, and then you do something, and then you finish a project. By the end of the day, you've done something that's going to help them. Rather than let's go off and just do random things. And some departments will come out and say, this was amazing. Other departments will say, that was a waste of time. Everyone should have the same quality CPD on the INSET day. Yeah. In my opinion.
We do have a few outside speakers. I think that's good as well. Yeah, but I think it's hard to meet everyone's needs, isn't it? And it's hard to get the whole room.
But it's easier for it to go wrong, and this is what I'm saying. Like, it's always. I feel like I'm so tired on day one, being talked at for like 5 hours. I just don't understand how some teachers think that's acceptable.
Because we would never do that to our students, would we? We would never just spend an entire day just lecturing our students, and sometimes INSET can feel a bit like that, can't it? And I just think there's certain things we like, this could definitely be an email.
Yeah.
Oh, I know, I agree with that.
They say you get 10 minutes for break time, and I'm like, wow, we sat through 3 hours. We've got 10 minutes to get a cup of tea.
That's actually, do you know what? And then hopefully they give you good food, because sometimes I've had really rubbish food as well in the INSET days, and I'm like, come on, man, the food needs to be good. I'm going to do with Jenny here, like the food needs to be really good.
Yes, good.
I'm talking about boundaries. It could be an email.
Jenny asks to interview, mate. She's like,
I do. What is the food like? If they're not serving me food at lunch, I'm not taking the job.
That's a good place to end, guys. I think that's a very good place to end, because Jenny and her boundaries, which do feature in another episode. I can't remember which one now. But thank you so much for coming on to our podcast. It's only taken us 6 months to get you on here. So
Yeah, thank you
Something
so
like that.
much. I had such a great time
Pleasure.
as well, and yeah,
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, don't worry. We'll have you on again at some point, all right? We'll talk
Next
about
time,
INSET
yeah.
days next time.